Hey, and welcome. We're all swimming in this ocean of information, right? But how do you actually find real, solid knowledge in all that noise? Well, today we're talking about the tool that does exactly that, data analysis. It's really just the process of turning all those raw, messy observations into clear insights you can actually use.
I mean, have you ever stopped to think about it? How does a big company decide exactly where to open its next store? Or how does that streaming service you use seem to just read your mind and recommend the perfect movie? I'll tell you, it's not magic. It's the power of data analysis working behind the scenes.
And seriously, this stuff is everywhere. We're talking about the high-stakes world of predicting elections, approving life-saving drugs, all the way down to the daily calculations that shape your finances, or help your favorite sports team get an edge. It's kind of like this hidden engine that drives so many of the decisions all around us.
So, here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to talk about why we even use data to make decisions. Then, we'll get into the raw material itself, the data. After that, we'll walk through the process of going from a total mess to real meaning, find some of those hidden patterns, and then, this is crucial, learn how to communicate what we find. And to wrap it all up, we'll look at some common pitfalls you've got to avoid. All right, let's dive in.
So, what do we even mean when we say a data-driven decision? Well, really, it just means moving past gut feelings and pure intuition. It's about using a more scientific approach to cut through uncertainty and, most importantly, to turn all that raw information into some kind of concrete action. Okay, so you can't build anything without understanding your materials, right? So before we jump into the really fun analysis part, we have to get a handle on the basic building blocks we're going to be working with. First off, what even is data? At its core, it's just a collection of observations. Could be survey answers, temperature readings, customer reviews, anything really. The key thing to remember is that it almost always starts out raw and unorganized, kind of like a lump of clay that's just waiting to be shaped into something useful. Next up is a term you hear all the time, population. Now, this doesn't just mean people. In the world of statistics, a population is the entire group of things we want to know something about. So it could be all the cars that came out of a factory, every voter in a country, or even all the stars in a galaxy. It's the whole shebang.
But here's where we hit a snag. Studying an entire population, it's often just impossible. It can be way too expensive, take forever, or you just physically can't get to everything. So what's the solution? Well, we take a sample. Just think of it like a smaller, manageable snapshot of that bigger group. That, and this part's important, if you choose it correctly, can tell you a whole lot about the bigger picture. Okay, so we've got our raw material, our sample. Now what? The big question is, how do we take that chaotic mess and turn it into something that actually means something? Well, that's where the data analysis process comes into play. You can think of it as a four-step journey. It all starts with collection. You got to get the data first. Then comes processing, which is where we organize it into a neat structure, maybe like a spreadsheet. Step 3 is cleaning, and trust me, this one is super important. We'll come back to it. And only then, once our foundation is solid, do we get to do the really exciting part, the analysis itself and then sharing what we found. And I really can't stress this enough. Data cleaning is absolutely non-negotiable. See, real-world data is always messy. It's just full of typos, duplicate entries, missing bits of information. If you skip this step, everything you build on top of it will be built on a shaky foundation. It's kind of like trying to find your keys in a super cluttered room. You have to tidy up first before you can find anything that matters. All right, our data's clean, it's organized, it's ready to go. Now we get to the magic. This is the part where we really start digging in to find the hidden stories and patterns that are just weeding inside the data. And broadly speaking, there are two main ways we do this. The two main approaches are what we call descriptive and inferential statistics. Here's a simple way to think about it. Descriptive statistics, well, it describes. It's all about summarizing what you know. So imagine a professor calculating the average grade for their specific class. That's a fact. It's describing exactly what happened. But inferential statistics, that's about making an educated guess about what you don't know. It's taking that one class average and trying to estimate the average for all the classes in the entire school. It's a game of probability. It's saying this is likely what will happen. So let's say you do your analysis and you find something amazing, an incredible insight. That's great. But it's completely useless if you can't explain it to anyone else.
The final and arguably most critical piece of this whole puzzle is telling the story that your data has just revealed to you.
And honestly, the single best way to tell that story is through data visualization. A good chart or a good graph isn't just there to look pretty, it is a powerful communication tool. It can take a whole bunch of complex numbers and make the main point just jump right off the page at you, super clearly and efficiently. So, for example, take a simple bar chart. It's perfect for comparing different categories. Right away, you can see that salesperson C is absolutely crushing it with 150 units sold, and salesperson B is lagging a bit behind. You don't have to squint at a table of numbers. The ranking is just right there. It's obvious. Or what if you need to show how different parts make up a whole, like market share? A donut chart or a pie chart works great for that. You can immediately see the proportions that our company has the biggest slice of the pie at 45%, followed by competitor X. See? It's all about picking the right visual tool for the story you're trying to tell. Now, it's really easy to think of data analysis as this purely objective, almost robotic process. You put data in, you get an answer out. But it's not like that at all. The analyst, the human being, plays a massive role. And that, of course, introduces some potential pitfalls that we all have to be really aware of. So let's talk about the biggest barriers. First up, confusing our opinions with actual facts. Real analysis has to be grounded in verifiable evidence, not just what we wish was true. Then you've got our own brains working against us with cognitive biases, like confirmation bias, where we just look for data that proves what we already believe. Third is something called innumeracy. Basically, if you're not comfortable with basic numbers, it's easy to misunderstand what they're saying. And finally, and this is a big one, missing evidence. If our data is incomplete, our conclusion, no matter how clever, might be completely wrong. You know, there's this fantastic quote from Daniel Patrick Moynihan that just captures the spirit of good analysis perfectly. He said, "You are entitled to your own opinion, but you are not entitled to your own facts." Our opinions are valid, sure, but for them to have any weight in an analysis, they have to be built on a foundation of objective facts that everyone can look at and agree on. So if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this. Data analysis is an incredibly powerful tool for understanding the world. It really is. But it is not a magic 8-ball. It isn't automatic. It requires careful, disciplined, critical thinking, not just from the person doing the analysis, but from every single one of us who looks at the results. And that kind of leaves us with one last thought to chew on. Data is constantly shaping the world all around you, from what you see in your newsfeed to your personal healthcare. So the real question is, are you aware of it? And maybe even more importantly, are you asking the right questions about where that data comes from and what story it's really